Welcome back for episode 42 of Focus Fire Chat and the fifth installment of Extra Lore, recorded live on August 2nd, 2016 on twitch.tv. Big shout out to the chat here. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who, it has been said, has the voice of a flower, Justin Sane 0516.
Never getting old. I know you think it will, but it's not.
We also have with us a returning guest co-host, Mel, known to some as WindoftheStars. Mel, how's everything going?
Pretty good. Doing the thing, playing some games, making some costumes. You know the norm.
Nice.
Good job. And how about a quick reminder on where everyone can find you out on the internet real quick?
Yeah, of course. So I pretty much use the handle WindoftheStars on everything. So 9 times out of 10, you can just put WindoftheStars into whatever place that you're at and find me. But I predominantly reside in the realms of Facebook and Instagram, Twitch. Not so much Twitch right now. Twitter, and I also, just exciting news, I just launched a Patreon campaign. So literally Saturday. So I'm kind of excited by it. I've had some really good positive feedback from it. So if anyone's interested in seeing more cosplay stuff and kind of make things, please check it out.
Wonderful. Well, the topic of today's chat is going to be a look at an introduction to the game lore of Overwatch. Before we get into that, however, I do want to run through just a few quick notes. In our last chat, we took a look at the lore of the Cryptarchy. If you missed that and have any interest in hearing our thoughts, please be sure to check out www.focusfirechat.com for archives of all previous chats, as well as links to all our various other pages. If you don't mind, please give us some feedback on iTunes or through our email, focusfirechat@gmail.com, to let us know how we're doing. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Wednesday or whenever, especially now that we're moving into the extra lores on a monthly schedule, every first week we're going to try to do this probably Tuesdays or Thursdays, the first Tuesday and Thursdays of each month. But usually around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous chat for those who are unable to participate. We have also officially joined the Guardian Radio Network. If you are not already listening to the podcast over on the guardiansofdestiny.com, fix that immediately. Guardian Radio and Guardian One are amazing groups, and we're truly honored to join them. Our next chat's going to be a discussion on the lore surrounding Vex structures and their functions within the realm of Destiny. But let's go ahead and get back into the introduction of the game lore of Overwatch. I'm going to hand it over to Justin and Mel, since that is definitely their wheelhouse more than it is mine. So, Justin, I'm going to... the conch is yours.
Oh, come on, Blue. This is so unsettling. You're giving it up.
No pressure.
You're giving it up
pressure.
Way too early.
No pressure. No pressure.
So, Overwatch, my new favorite game. I don't know, that might be unfair, but it's definitely the game that I'm playing most at the moment. It's a pretty wonderful little universe that the game's set in. Everything's super modern and kind of technologically advanced. And basically, the game as we know it in Overwatch takes place after a sort of golden age for humanity, and then the ensuing Omnic crisis. And what we're going to talk about first was kind of the basic bones of an outline, as far as we can tell. This is by no means. Oh no, you're fine. By no means is this like the end all compendium, but it gives you a pretty good outline. What were you going to say, Mel?
Oh, I should just also make note that about 98% of the lore that we're going to be covering is not in-game. It's not like Destiny where you actually get story information and you have like things like the Grimoire cards that tell you like, okay, here's the thing. They haven't really released much of the lore aside from what was in the official art book. That's where most of the information for the wiki comes from, and then like communication between actual characters, and of course the movies that they have released, that Blizzard's officially released, covers a lot of the lore too that we're going to talk about. So that's one thing I think is really interesting about Overwatch is they don't have that one player or the first player, just single player type of mode in the game where you could learn all this stuff. So I have found out that most people don't know that there's kind of like this huge entire thing of Overwatch. They're just like, oh, we have these characters, we're gonna play, we're gonna defend the thing, we're just having fun. So
yeah, which is fine too, but and they also do it in a lot of kind of subtle little ways. Like certain characters will say different bits of dialogue on certain maps, or they'll say different bits of dialogue when they're next to other characters, or when they're wearing a certain skin. So rather than have it, we always like to kind of, jab at Bungie about the way they told the story in Destiny, but rather than have it kind of cataloged for us, this is very much just very wide open. And, the game hasn't been out all that long, so I'm sure at some point all of this will be cataloged, and the people at the wiki have done a lot already. Mm-hmm. But as far as right now, it's very much an open story.
Mm-hmm. I almost feel like what the version of Overwatch now was just kind of like a proof of concept. This, I'm like, hey, let's create a game that just has this and see if it actually works for us. And then maybe later on down the line, we might get some more content that is based more around the story and the world for which Overwatch exists. But I mean, that's hopeful thinking, because we're all lore junkies, so we want that type of content. But who knows if we'll
I think the difficulty Overwatch has, and that kind of games like Destiny and Halo and all these other first-person shooters, and this is definitely a difficulty that Overwatch has, is that there is no PvE scenario. Mm-hmm. So there's not really, because that's normally where your story is like heavily developed too. Like there's no campaign or story mode in Overwatch. Really, it's just it's like the Star Wars Battlefront or Titanfall. Titanfall. No cutscene. Well, Titanfall had a lot of this issue too, and Titanfall 2, which is coming out soon. They learned a lot from the lack of that. The limitations that a total PvP game had, and this is an area that definitely gets negatively impacted. But I'll be honest, those videos, those expanded universe videos of theirs are amazing. They are. I've watched most of them, I think, and you can watch them back to back. And it's just it's just awesome. So
they definitely read as the cutscenes that you would have gotten if they were in a game. Mm-hmm. So I think they realized that there was not something like that in the actual game itself, and they know that a lot of people really enjoy that aspect, especially for Blizzard, who is pretty well known for having pretty solid storylines, pretty solid characters. And for them to have a game where they don't actually have a storytelling aspect is really like, whoa, what are you guys doing? So, so I think that's probably why they made sure to make those movies for A+, because you get a lot of interaction. And the one that always sticks out most to my mind is the video between Tracer and Widowmaker, is just how they have a very clear, defined line of not necessarily one's good or bad, but there's definitely a line of which they have different moral compasses going on, and that they know each other to a degree, but you don't, at the time when they released it, you had no clue because the art book and stuff wasn't out, so you didn't know what their relationship was. But I mean, that one always sticks out really well in my mind.
Is that the one where she is trying to, or she assassinates Pinata? Or
yes.
What's his name?
I don't think it's actually Zenyatta. I believe he is the leader of the people of the, which we're going to cover later, the leader of the Omnics that come and say, hey, we're just as cool as you humans.
Oh, is that
let's all love and be happy.
Do they just all look alike?
Yeah, they all look alike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is exposure to my lack of knowledge here.
Okay. I mean, that's how I interpret it. I mean,
it's not
Pinata. Okay, the guy's name is Pinata.
It's Mandata.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I think you just made that up. But okay.
No, I didn't. We'll get there a little bit, Blue. It's in the notes.
Okay.
Read your notes, man. Read your notes. I'm just messing with you. So yeah, that's definitely worth knowing, is that this is not somewhere in the game. Like, you shouldn't be feeling like you missed something very intrinsic to the game of Overwatch if all this is just Greek to you. This is stuff that, most of it came, like Mel said, from the art source book and from expanded universe stuff like the digital comics and things like that. So and I will try to be clear about where things are coming from when it is clear to me. The basic timeline of Overwatch, there's a really good one done by Polygon, which I will actually see if I can link in chat, and I'll get Blue Blue can link that there and in the show notes as well.
I will do that.
So do we want to jump into kind of the world of Overwatch and how we kind of find ourselves where we are right now in game?
I think that would be, because I think the first thing that we probably need to talk about is you said Omnic, which I think,
yes.
That seems like, I don't know. There's a lot of, I'm reading the notes, and there's
the Omnics are, I was going to say the Omnics are a great starting point.
Right.
So basically, unlike in Destiny, we don't have a Traveler, but there was a golden age, kind of this resurgence of technology, and that we made really fast breakthroughs and everything. And we actually had a whole lunar colony, a research colony, orbiting the moon. And then the Omnics were created. They were pretty much just robots with advanced artificial intelligence, and they were actually, key in a lot of the manufacturing breakthroughs and a bunch of the other stuff that happened that led to us kind of being able to be where we are today as we sit in game. But, whenever you create, very, very highly intelligent artificial intelligence, and they have time to kind of think about their lot in life, at some point they start to wonder why they're, why they're serving you if they're so smart.
So it's very, very much the common artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Trouble.
Yeah.
Very similar to the whole entire Mass Effect storyline with, God, my mind is drawing a blank. You know what I'm talking about. The robot. Yes, thank you. While I was sitting here trying to remember the name, I was like the Geth and Tally's people, which I don't know why I'm not remembering this, because I have so many hours in Mass Effect, and I used to know all this off the top of my head, like, immediately. See, people do not get old. You forget things, very important things, like your Mass Effect lore. I am very sad. Okay.
It's okay. I only knew that because I'm on a show with Willie.
Yeah, I was about to say, Willie's not here.
Yeah. So, real quick before we move off from just the creation of the Omnics, there were large facilities where they were created called Omniums. And also one of the really key things they did to make the world where, like, to kind of give us the foundation for the world we live in at present time in game, is they gave a way for there to be economic equality. So countries that before had no manufacturing infrastructure and couldn't compete in the world market or couldn't feed their people or house their people, all of a sudden they had a means for this because of the power of the Omnics. But yeah, I was going to see, Blue, if you wanted to talk about the Omnic crisis.
Yeah. I also see that apparently they have hyper-intelligent gorillas.
Oh, yeah. We can. Well, I say we touch on that when we talk about Winston.
Okay.
Yes. That's what I was leaving.
Apparently.
I think we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously, as anyone who pays any attention to any sci-fi movie, book, anything that has AI as a main component, it sounds like the AI reached a point where they were questioning their own existence, and, you know, like Justin was saying, they were like, hey, you know, we're not really second-class citizens and we're not really servants, so what gives? But it also looks like Blizzard has not revealed to our knowledge yet what the actual cause of the crisis was, but basically all of a sudden the Omniums began producing hostile Omnics, and they started, which this reminds me so much of Star Wars, but basically they have well, because they have manufacturing company or manufacturing plants where the robots are building other robots to build other robots to build. It's the shipyards from Star Wars. That's exactly what happened, and this is exactly what happened. So this is where the Bastion units came from, actually, which apparently Bastion is a very fan favorite of everybody who plays the game.
Sorry.
And Bastion was actually the main force of the crisis. So what happened was this force of manufacturing power and basically the source of a very stable society just turned around and bit the hand that fed it. And in response to this sudden change, the United Nations stepped up and formed a group or a task force of soldiers and scientists that termed Overwatch. And I'm not, are these names Gabriel Reyes and Jack Morrison?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Sorry, and so basically these were the original, like, I guess the big wigs of the original Overwatch was Reyes and Morrison. But then later they it seems like they've split. Morrison basically took. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying this right. Morrison took control of Overwatch, whereas Reyes took control of a covert operations unit within Overwatch. Is that Blackwatch?
Yeah, it was basically, so Jack Morrison, he was kind of just like basically the poster child for Overwatch and had a very specific military by the books way of doing it. A lot of the characters you see that were from the original Overwatch, such as Mercy and Winston and the big tank guy, which I'm drawing a blank on his name at the moment.
Reinhardt.
Thank you, Reinhardt. We're all kind of like on like kind of like his go-to group, and then Reyes, he kind of had a different way of viewing things also. So we'll touch more about this in a little later, but he kind of is like, okay, we're gonna go get stuff done, and we're gonna make sure it gets done. Mm-hmm. So kind of like the Black Ops version,
right?
Like,
yeah,
you know, like
they were the
ones
Shadow version, yeah.
Exactly. So on his side, you had a lot of people. And you had, I know Black Widow was one of them. I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head.
McCree. I was going to say, wasn't McCree one?
Yeah, McCree. Yeah, because they theorized that McCree was his like protege. Like we'll go into that later. Anyways.
Well, and it
So
seemed, I mean, it does make sense if United Nations, I mean, just, again, not being well steeped in this lore, but just from an outside view, if United Nations is the one that says, yes, you are Overwatch, United Nations is going to have their hands pretty deep in the pie on making sure that they, don't cross the line. Well, there's some lines in war that technically might need to get crossed, especially if you're fighting against an AI unit that doesn't give two crap about the people it's killing.
And that's exactly what was going on in the Overwatch thing. Is from my understanding, of course, my understanding could be completely wrong, but from what I've gathered from the information is that Morrison's side was definitely the good moral compass of Overwatch. Look, we're saving all of the humans. Like, we're getting rid of this threat, but well, yes, they are doing stuff and they are doing good things. That you have Reese back in the back that's actually pulling a lot of stuff, that's getting stuff done that no one wants to speak of.
Right. Yeah. So Overwatch was the poster child, while Blackwatch was the ones who were actually doing the wet work.
Yeah. They were the clandestine arm that they were not there.
Which, hey, guess what happens? There's stress between the two groups.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not a huge surprise. So
I actually wanted to point out from a style standpoint, if you look at so basically I wanted to explain this because I didn't fully understand this until not that long ago. If you bought the console version of Overwatch, I think your only choice was to get the Origins edition. I don't know if that's correct or not. I didn't get any other choice.
yeah.
So with the Origins edition of Overwatch, for each character, you got an Origin skin. And pretty much it is just what it sounds like. It's a skin that makes them look like what they were, back when this all started. Now for Soldier 76, who we'll get into this later, who is actually Jack Morrison. And some of the I know, mind blown. Some of the other characters that were original Overwatch, Anna, if you look at their uniforms and their origin skin, it very much resembles, other than some of the like highly stylized futuristic parts of them, it somewhat resembles what you would imagine a UN peacekeeping uniform to look like.
Especially
there's a lot of blue. And it highly resembles that to me. And it kind of solidifies in my mind the fact that they were created to be a peacekeeping group as opposed to a tactical, strike unit, which is kind of what Blackwatch became.
Right. And, as the face of the UN, of course, they're going to want to have this sect, I guess you want to call it, this program, to look like they are these upstanding citizens. They're doing good, but I mean, in terms of war, you can't always have that type of people running things. I mean, you're gonna have to have the people that get their hands dirty,
right,
that get things done. You need that group of people. But yeah, do we want to talk more about what the generation of Overwatch entailed, like some of the other people, like some of the other heroes that they got in during that time when Overwatch was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Take it.
Oh, you're handing this over. Well, crud.
So are we done with the Omnic Crisis? I think we're.
Yeah, I mean, so. No, go for it.
We can basically sum it up to the fact that Overwatch dealt with it. So to what degree, from my understanding, they didn't really explain how, quote unquote, it was dealt with, aside from the few things we see afterwards. Excuse me, like we see some of the Omnics come into society. You actually get to play with a couple Omnics in the game as a hero. And you start seeing different groups of people that, that support them becoming integrated into society. And other people are kind of like, no, they tried to kill us. What are you doing? Like separation, we need to segregate ourselves. You can't allow them into society. So you obviously see that. But once the Omnic crisis was over, Overwatch wasn't disbanded right away. And so it became an Overwatch generation, which basically was this glorified group of people. Is kind of like not superhero, but kind of superhero. Like if you got into Overwatch, people were just kind of like, oh my God, you're super cool. You're super famous. Like you get to do all these really cool things. It wasn't in the sense that like, oh, you're going out and you're like war, because it wasn't really a war any longer. But Justin, do you want to go? Because I feel like I'm talking forever.
Yeah, no, you're doing just fine. Oh, and before we move on, there was one country that refused Overwatch help during the crisis, and that was Russia. Russia actually closed their borders and refused any Overwatch help and dealt with the Omnic crisis on their own.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, and that's why in that opening, I think it's when Winston's doing his little speech, and there's that one shot, I think, of the Kremlin, and there's all those Russian soldiers, and and you don't see a single blue shirt one. That's because Russia was like, "Niet, I'm doing it myself," which I feel like might come to play with Zarya at some point. But
yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, but wasn't that her entire origin? Was she rushed back home? Or are we gonna get it? Are we gonna get into that?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Okay. Hey,
we're gonna get to that.
There's crumbs that I know.
There's so much. So after the Omnic crisis, the battle's won, right? But Overwatch didn't immediately disband. Like any UN peacekeeping force, they were still needed. They just kind of did peacekeeping missions. And many of the agents that were in service during the Omnic crisis stayed in service. And then there were a few like Genji who left to kind of follow their own path. So then there were some notable kind of developments. In India, the Vishkar Corporation developed a radical and revolutionary technology called hard light. This technology allowed them to create physical objects with light. My God, this is sounding familiar. To further development, the corporation developed the Architect Academy to find and train architects to create world-changing creations. And it was through this academy that we will find out later we got Symmetra. Another really...
Okay.
Yeah, it's making sense, right?
Well, her shining star thing makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. She can just make she can make anything to help you in battle, and she makes a teleporter. That's it. She can only make a teleporter.
And little itty bitty turrets that don't do anything.
Oh, they do something. If you're fighting a really good Symmetra, they hurt.
They hurt.
Because I fought one person playing Symmetra that was evil. They only put their turrets, they only put their little sentries around health packs. Because what is somebody who's running to a health pack? They're hurt. And you're just dead. But
let me tell you times I've walked through door frames not knowing that there was a Symmetra. This is like the very start of the game, and you walk and then you're insta dead because their whole entire door frame is just covered with the little stupid turrets, and you can't see them until you're on the other side, and by the time you're able to turn around and shoot them, you're dead. So
so if you're playing with randos and you're not talking, it's awful. If you got a good team, you can call them out and get rid of them pretty quick. But so Symmetra is awful. No, I'm just kidding. The next kind of a notable thing was that the Shambali was formed. And this was created by a group of Omnics to bring humans and Omnics together again. They believed that the Omnics possessed a soul and wanted to reunite the world through harmony between humans and Omnics. Led by Tekharta Mandata, the Shambali gained prominence throughout the world. One of their followers, Zenyatta, eventually left to follow his own path. he decided to focus less on the dogmatic teaching and more on the interpersonal relationships between humans and omnics. Now, if you're wondering who this Mandata character was, he's actually, to the best of my knowledge, the omnic who gets his face wrecked in the Widowmaker animated short.
That's how I assumed it was too.
Yeah. And Tracer, being the awful person that she is, she blinked and she let the bullet go through and hit him in the head. It's just,
I love how you blame Tracer.
I blame Tracer. She should have took one for the team.
No. But if you know what, I'm not going to touch on that because then we're going to start going down this whole and that's not a good time. So
that's not a good one. So
but then wasn't there Australia? Oh no, go for it.
Oh, no, I was going to say that the Shambali were made up of omnics who are essentially like robot monks. Mm-hmm. And when you play on the map that's on Nepal, make sure I said it correctly, on Nepal, there's statues, all over the place of meditating robot monks, omnic monks. And this is kind of the birthplace of the Shambali.
Okay. And then I know Australia is Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that was right.
Why don't you talk about that?
So because and I kind of remember the discussion in chat on this one with Junkrat, I think it is, who found the treasure. So basically, real quick, Australia, there's the Australian outback. Anyone who's seen Mad Max Fury Road, that's basically what this is. So basically, after the Omnic crisis, most of the places in the world decided to give Omnics or the world, I guess, decided to give the Omnics the Australian outback. That's became their refuge. Unfortunately, this was not really decided by the Australians as a great idea, and there were small pockets of those Australians who really didn't want them there. And so this formed a force called the Australian Liberation Front that was basically designed to push back what they viewed as an omnic invasion. And that's led to the destruction of Australia's Omnium facility and the irradiation of the majority of the outback. But I think Junkrat was one of the initial members of the Australian Liberation Front, if I'm remembering this correctly, whereas Roadhog was kind of just a gun for hire, just traveling. Obviously, they're both bikers, but Roadhog especially, but Roadhog was actually hired by Junkrat to help him protect a treasure, air quotes around the treasure here, but a treasure that Junkrat had found and that people were after. And as a result of Junkrat living within this irradiated zone, he's kind of a little insane, just a itty bitty. He's a little paranoid and he's a little crazy, but he actually apparently does have something that people want. No one, I think, knows what it is, but Roadhog and him have taken it upon themselves to protect it. But they're also I think the part that I remember is them talking about how they don't follow really logical paths. They're trying to hide, but then they go out of their way to get jobs and cause all sorts of trauma in the world. But I'm trying to remember. Other than that, the other thing that really is big is the Justin's I think it's the Shimada brothers.
Shimadas, yes. Mm-hmm. And I kind of figure we go off that one. I kind of felt like we would go over that when we did the characters, Blue. But
way to jump ahead
during this. Yeah, way to jump ahead. Blue.
Hey,
gosh, jeez.
I try.
So basically, during this time, we'll hit this real quick. Basically, during this time, on his little path to personal enlightenment, Zenyatta actually runs into Genji Shimada, a former Overwatch agent. Genji is thought to have been killed by his brother Hanzo, the eldest son of the Shimada crime family. And the Shimadas ordered Hanzo to kill Genji because of his wild and carefree behavior. On the brink of death, Mercy brought Genji back as a cyborg. Way to go, Mercy.
Wow. This begins a trend on Mercy's behalf.
Yes, of just rezzing. Rezzing people all over.
Oh, my Mercy, babe. She means well, but sometimes I feel she has small motives, which we'll discuss that later.
Okay.
I think it's also important to mention during the golden age of Overwatch that was the time when in Korea, the mechs were created that were also used to fight an Omnic invasion. And this is where D.Va comes into play because they sought out professional gamers to pilot these mechs, and she became one of the most popular ones because of her ability to wield it. And she also apparently streamed her encounters while piloting her mech. So she is literally one of the original Twitch people, if you want to call it that.
She makes Pokemon Go look tame.
Oh, I know. Yeah. She would totally play Pokemon Go. Like,
you catch digital monsters. D.Va kills real ones.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, she so needs like a Doritos logo on her hip or something.
Yeah.
Some Mountain Dew logos.
Well, and she was the world champion at StarCraft.
StarCraft, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, she was.
Gee.
But we'll go into D.Va's backstory later. Sure. But let's dive into what actually happened to Overwatch, shall we? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned earlier, Reese and Morrison obviously had two very different ways of going about this world peace thing. And as you can imagine, the fighting between them became really, really bad. There was a lot of infighting between Reyes and Morrison that ran parallel with accusations of uncharacteristic, corrupt behavior. So at one point, there was a United Nations investigation, and there was a fight that broke out at the Overwatch headquarters. And during this fight, the facility was actually completely destroyed. And they assumed at the time that Reese and Morrison were killed during the destruction of the facility. So because of the events, and including the signing of Petrus Act, which was a document stating that any Overwatch-related activity was therefore illegal, caused Overwatch to actually be completely disbanded. And that kind of leads us up to the start of the game where we came in as players. So do you guys want to go a little bit further into what goes on next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. After that unfortunate business we're getting closer and closer to where we are when we first put the disc in and boot up our game and start shooting things. We have the era in the lore of the game called the recall. Because of the absence of Overwatch, everything's kind of just going to pot everywhere. Like, there's crisis after crisis, and it's kind of like one of those deals. Whenever you turn on the news, you just almost don't want to because it's nothing but bad news. And it's about this time that Winston initiates a recall. He kind of does it at the end of his animated short that's actually named Recall. He's thinking about it and speaking to his little AI Athena, and she kind of talks him out of it. And then he's attacked by Reaper, who's an awful person, and he's attacked by Reaper, who's actually, we'll find out in a little bit, Gabriel Reyes. Kind of way to go, Mercy, on that one. And yes, oh mercy. But basically, this attack and the fact that Reaper tried to hack his computer and find out all the Overwatch agents' locations and identities, just like is the last straw for Winston, and he initiates the recall of all Overwatch agents against the Petrus Act.
Well, and doesn't that introduce Talon? Isn't this where Talon gets introduced?
It doesn't like overtly get introduced in that short, but at this time, Reaper post fall of Overwatch, Gabriel Reyes or Reaper, however you want to call him, is a Talon operative. So there's every reason to believe that this is a Talon-led attack on Winston to pretty much all the bad stuff we see Winston and Widowmaker do in the digital shorts. Those are Talon ops. Which Talon is kind of the new. Well, if you think that Reaper leads Talon, I don't believe you.
No. You said Winston and Widowmaker.
Oh, okay, Reaper. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Winston. Yeah, but yeah, Reaper. So yeah, Talon just kind of replaced Blackwatch as the bad boy on the block. It's also around this time we start seeing the resurgence of Jack Morrison in the form of Soldier 76. He also had a pretty rough time of it during the fall of Overwatch. He was almost killed. But now he's back with a tactical visor, a pulse rifle, and an attitude. And when we see him in his digital short, he's roaming the streets of Dorado, beating up on skeleton gangsters. So it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. And these are also kind of just going through some of the content matter that's in those digital shorts, which is pretty cool. Those are, if you can watch all of those back to back, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, like the first digital short they even released was your first introduction to Overwatch before the game was when Reaper and Widowmaker try to steal
Doomfist,
which they revealed was called the Doomfist. And you see Tracer, and I believe it's Winston. It's been a while since I watched it. Come in and they save the day, and the kids that are there at the museum honoring Overwatch, they're like, "Oh no, what's going on? Please save us!" So it's kind of to show that that the Overwatch is still needed to some extent. That there is still another force out in the world that is opposing peace for the whole entire planet. Unfortunately, it appears that the force that is opposing the good force is actually former Overwatch agents. So that's where it gets kind of mucky. But yeah, so they're also responsible for the assassination of the head of the Shambali, which we discussed earlier. So that's also covered in one of the shorts, which is one of my favorites. The battle sequence between Tracer and Widowmaker is one of my favorites. So definitely check it out. You learn, without actually reading their history, you learn a lot about who they are and their interactions between each other, and just kind of in general that there's not really any words spoken besides their lines that they would say normally in game when they're doing normal in-game stuff. So it's really well thought out story wise. So yes.
Yeah, and that's a live animated short.
I used to be afraid of spider. So no, it's also worth noting that every single one of these shorts, I think I'm correct in this, every single one of these shorts actually takes place on a playable Overwatch map.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry?
Yes. Yes, you are correct.
Oh, okay. And they said no. I was like, no, I was wrong. I had a good run. But the recall video of Winston is on Watchpoint Gibraltar, which is his kind of little base. But Soldier 76's happens on Dorado. the Alive one with Widowmaker, where she assassinates Mandata, is King's Row, and so on and so forth. But this is the part that excites me. Not all of the maps have a video, but all the videos have a map, leading me to believe there's some more on the way, which I think we could have all. That's not too far out there that there were more videos coming, but I think it'll be pretty good. Like, I want to see a Lucio video. That'd be awesome. I just want to see him like push, just push someone off the map. But so that kind of covers us through there.
Well, and then there was what is it, Zarya, right? The second crisis.
Yes,
I think that's the last thing is basically. So there's the Doomfist short, which is the trailer, and then there's the Alive short, which is the assassination of Mandata, and then it's theorized that the assassination might have reactivated the Omnium in Russia, and this reactivation ignites a second Omnic crisis, which basically, remember, Russia has kind of locked its doors. They've put up a curtain, if you would, between it and the rest of the world, and so they kind of aren't really ready, I think, for the surprise reactivation, and they lose a pretty good number. 15, I think it's 15,000 is what the timeline here has. But this is where the world's strongest woman, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her actual name, we know her as Zarya, leaves her competitive weightlifting circuit and goes back and enlists in the army, basically reinvigorating that entire area and trying and kind of re-emphasizing the need for, I guess, patriotism within the Russian border. But she was only a child during the first crisis, which I didn't know. She was only a young child, which it makes sense. But so that's her entire introduction. That's kind of her reason to be fighting, is she's fighting in response to the resurgence of the Omnic forces, which I think at that point we're at the launch of the game, right? I think that brings us right up to where we play.
Yeah, and actually the second Omnic Crisis is one of the many events that Winston sees on his television or his monitor.
Okay.
And that's like one of the main things he's seeing that's like really screwed up.
And this is a potential tie-in to Destiny, because there is a big wall around Russia.
Since we talked about Zarya real quick,
I love how both of you just are like, and moving on.
We're not doing that.
So one of the things that's important to point out is that the reason she felt so passionate about getting into the fight was that her village was on the front lines of the original Omnic Crisis. So she saw a lot of people suffer from it, and she worked hard to, help people recover. And that was one of her things why she went into weightlifting, is that she wanted to get to be strong and, help protect people. And by the time she was old enough, Overwatch was already been disbanded. So there's actually quite a few heroes which we'll learn about that want to be part of Overwatch. In one, that made it their life goal to enter it, but then there wasn't any Overwatch by the time they got old enough. But then when the second Omnic Crisis popped out, her village again was thrusted back into the thing. So that was huge motivator for her to be like, you know what, we're gonna take care of this, because this is not cool.
I think she took a break from wrestling that bear, and she was like, yeah, let's go home. That's enough of that.
Bear, you come fight with me.
That was pretty good. So now we're present day. And present day, we have a bunch of characters.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
We have a bunch of characters. Is it 24 all in all? I think it is.
Something like that. More on the way.
I love
It
how
There's
you,
a lot.
it was rhetorical. I know there's 24. Well, I don't know what Anna does to it. She might make it 25. I could be wrong. So, do we want to kind of go character by character?
Might as well. I mean, like,
So, yeah. I think that we can maybe pair up Genji and Hanzo, just for obvious reasons.
yeah, because they're so intertwined.
Yes. So, having said that, I think we will let Blue take Genji, and Mel, you can take Hanzo.
okay.
You see how I delegate? Amazing.
So we probably call Hanzo hand soap. I don't know why.
Hand soap.
He's so handsome.
He's so handsome.
And he's so strong.
Let me just point out also, for someone that uses a bow and arrow, he has the snipes on lockdown. Like, I don't know if it's people cheating or what, but I can't tell you how many times people have one-shotted me in the head with Hanzo, and then I watch the replay, and their arrow is probably like a foot away from my head, but it counts as a headshot. Like,
no, it's actually, I do have the data on that, Mel. It's because his hitbox is as large as a Chrysler LeBaron. That's why.
Because anytime I try to play with Widowmaker, it's in between the eyes. So don't actually
the hitbox for Hanzo, and they may have adjusted it since I saw the video and tested this out. The hitbox for Hanzo is so large that the character can be completely behind cover that you're shooting at, and as long as you shoot right next to the cover, you can kill him without any part of them being visible. I am.
How is that? How is that how is that?
It's the trade-off. You brought a bow and arrow to a gunfight. It's a trade-off.
No, it's not a trade-off. Like, if you bring a bow and arrow to a gunfight, you should.
Here comes the salt. But okay, real quick, Genji. So I guess each of these characters has a kind of a quote that kind of I'm assuming kind of defines their personal story. And Genji's is even if I sacrifice my body, I will never sacrifice my honor. And so, like we had already said, Genji was pretty much doomed, assigned to be killed by his older brother Hanzo, because Genji was the youngest son of the master of the Shimada ninja clan, which, anyone who has seen Genji could probably figure that out. But he kind of squandered that. He really didn't have any interest in the illegal businesses. He was very, very good at the ninja training, but he just kind of pursued I guess they call it a playboy lifestyle. He just kind of squandered everything and didn't really care. And then I guess his father was kind of viewed as coddling and protecting him. So of course, following the clan leader's unfortunate death, Hanzo came to Genji and demanded that he took a more active role in the empire, and Genji refused, which basically led to a lot of tension between the two brothers, and eventually led to a confrontation that Hanzo pretty much put Genji down. And then, our favorite angel in disguise intervened.
And actually, if you've ever seen Genji's origin skin, you get that feeling just from looking at him. His hair's green. He looks have y'all seen that one? Have you seen Genji? It almost looks like he's an anime character. Almost. You don't get the feeling he's very serious about anything at that point. Still doesn't warrant what Hanzo did, but okay.
Well, I mean, in a samurai culture, though, it's
Hanzo was put kind of in a difficult position. I mean, like, he's obviously held up by the clan. Like, his father, after his father died, the clan said, hey, you need to, like, get your brother under control or else, and considering that the clan was, a criminal empire, you don't really want to F with that. So, I mean, Hans, it's weird because we don't really know what Hans's moral compass is, or if he's just kind of like, all right, this is what I need to do. I'm going to do this. So, but yeah, so he obviously he was really upset when Genji was going to go help with the Overwatch. So, I mean, I don't know. Like Hanzo, I don't know a whole bunch about Hanzo, but at the same time, I can kind of sense that like he kind of didn't want to do it, but also wanted to do it. Like that was one of those ambiguous type of things,
Well, and Hanzo's much like focused on the samurai sense of honor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is very telling to me because samurai viewed ninja as honorless.
Yes.
Like they're almost, they weren't thieves, but they were on par with thieves. They were honorless. I hesitate to assume that he's, but I guess I see where you're going with that. It does kind of seem like Hanzo identifies a little bit more with the samurai code.
Yes.
With the Bushido as opposed to Genji, who's much more into the hedonistic, for lack of a better word, ninja-ing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in the end, the whole entire ordeal with his brother, he did end up rejecting his father's legacy and leaving and abandoning the clan, which he worked so hard. So, I mean, obviously he does care about his brother, and I felt like he had a very tough situation. Like, do I uphold the honor of my dad and my clan, or, and do this act, or do I just, do you know what I mean? So yeah.
And Pins Halo in the chat has it 100% correct. It is a very Yakuza vibe in the Shimada crime family.
Yes.
And the Yakuza essentially used a bastardized form of the Bushido code to kind of, for their criminal gain. There's a lot of talk of, and it's kind of this confliction of terms where you're speaking of honor all the time, and then you're committing, you're in an ongoing criminal enterprise. So, and
Hanzo, I think, do they have? I'm assuming that this was intentional. Yeah, Hattori Hanzo, who was a really famous samurai, and a pretty big historical icon. Yeah, Hattori Hanzo
Kill
was.
Bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, Hattori Hanzo. He was a very big Japanese historical icon and a very famous samurai.
Okay.
And I think that that's. I'm looking for the. Yeah,
that's who made the sword in Kill Bill.
And then I'm gonna see. I'm curious if Genji's name has a similar reference. Let me see if I can find their trivia. Yeah, so the Tale of Genji is the reference that Genji had. And Genji's is... Yeah, the Tale of Genji also has a very similar Playboy-esque character and stuff like that. So... Oh,
and
Hanzo and Genji were originally the same character. They were originally intended to be the same.
Oh, yeah. From a development standpoint, I did forget about that. They were, and my God, I'm so glad they split those two up.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Imagine, oh my God, that would be the most OP character in Overwatch.
It would be horrible.
My God, that'd be awful.
It would be horrible.
So, we mentioned Mercy real quick, but the reason Genji looks the way he does is because of Mercy. We'll touch on more what Mercy does. She kind of just like, hey, I'm going to play Frankenstein here, and I'm going to make you a robot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to live. Yeah, GG ethics. GG. So, also, I believe, and I don't know where I read or heard this, but I believe the sword in the Two Dragons cinematic, the digital short that Hanzo is kneeling before is actually the sword that he killed, well, presumably killed Genji with, tried to kill Genji with.
That would make sense.
And after that, after having supposedly killed his brother, he forwent the sword, and that was when he took up the bow. He was actually a swordsman in the beginning. In the beginning, he was a swordsman, and then when, of course, after the trauma of having to kill his own brother, he decided he would never pick up a sword again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he only killed one of his brothers, though, right?
Well,
Wasn't there another brother that
he would never kill Eugene? But this is definitely the mark. I think this the Blizzard has definitely put a lot of stock into Soldier 76's storyline, and it's a pivotal one. And it'd probably be way more important to the overarching story of Overwatch than the Hanzo Genji saga. But I think this is the one that a lot of people will latch on to, a lot like Dregden Yor and Jaren Ward in Destiny. I think this is the storyline that a lot of people will gravitate towards just because it has all those classic story elements of familial strife and betrayal and reunion. And the way they did the storytelling with the Two Dragons is just immense. It was awesome. I love that one. That's probably my favorite short out of all of them.
Well, do you want to tackle 76 next, or do you want to go to McCree?
Yeah, I'll do McCree. Real quick because he should be pretty quick. Jesse McCree is 37 years old from America, and he's a bounty hunter from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And his actual affiliations, he used to be an Overwatch agent and a Blackwatch agent. Let's see. Essentially, McCree had kind of already made a name for himself as a member of the notorious Deadlock gang, and they were just a criminal organization that, they trafficked weapons, military hardware through the Southwest. Him and his associates were busted in an Overwatch sting, and he was given the choice between being in prison or joining Blackwatch. They were like, hey, we've got this, group of very questionable individuals that actually try to do some good. Why don't you come over here with them? And then he said justice was not going to dispense itself, so he went and did it. And he was kind of a cynical character. I mean, he was a criminal. But he came to believe that he could kind of make amends for his past by righting the injustices of the world. And he also kind of appreciated being in the moral gray area that Blackwatch kind of lived in. And he actually kind of was taught, the finer points of tactical maneuvering by Gabriel Reyes, who was, of course, is now Reaper. But, as Overwatch kind of started getting close to the fall, the rogue elements within Blackwatch sought to bring down the organization and turn it to their own ends. And McCree didn't want any part of this, so he kind of broke off on his own and went underground. He kind of resurfaces a little bit later as just a vigilante. He's kind of fighting for what he believes in. And then, of course, if you haven't read the digital comics, please go to what's the website? Blue can link it. He's good at that stuff. But McCree's is called Train Hopper. And he's actually on top of a hyper train, which is a really fast express train headed for Houston. And he encounters a group of a group of operatives using Blackwatch methods, which we know later is actually Talon, which is just a reskinned Blackwatch. And he gives them, he gives them their money's worth, gives them a fight. And just now he's just kind of this gunslinger, he's Lone Wolf McQuaid at the moment. Let me see. I'm trying to see what his origin skin is. I can't see it. He's got one called Riverboat. That's amazing. Okay, so anyhow,
it might be called his vigilante skin.
Is that the origin? I call it the zoot suit.
The zoot suit.
Yeah, it looks like a zoot suit to me, but
why, McCree?
I don't know. I mean, I would rather go with his like, I don't know, on the range one or something.
Yeah, I like the Chatterwhite.
Chatterwhite?
Yeah, every character in Overwatch that I play with, I will get the Chatterwhite skin.
That's
funny.
Just me.
That's just me. So, I guess, Mel, you want to get Farah?
I can do Farah.
And then we'll group up Reaper and 76.
Yeah, we'll put them in one giant thing. So, with Farah, she was one of those hopefuls of getting into the Overwatch program. And one of the reasons was that her mom was actually in Overwatch. So, and in case you don't know, we'll get to it probably a little bit later, but Anna is actually Farah's mom. So, but yeah, so she had a good relationship with her mom. Her mom taught her a bunch of martial arts and everything like that, and she grew up in the company of the other Overwatch people. So she wanted to follow her mother's footsteps, obviously, but her mom was like, no, you do not do that. So she was always, kind of like, hey, no, you can't go do that thing. But despite that, she decided to go ahead and enlist into the Egyptian army because obviously Overwatch is not around anymore. She's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways. So she was able to have really high tactical prowess, and she rose up through the ranks very, very, very quickly. And she had a good leadership qualities, and she was very, very loyal also. So she was getting ready to go into Overwatch, but obviously that didn't happen. And so when she graduated from the army, basically when she was done with her service, she was offered employment by the Helix Security International, which was a private security firm contracted to defend artificial intelligence research facilities in Giza, the Giza Plateau. So there was a top secret facility, was on sorry, I'm reading through all the little bits I don't remember. The top secret facility was touted as a vital to safety of not only the region, but the country across the globe. She willingly agreed to the assignment, and she received training in the Raptor Mark IV, which is the cool suit you see her flying around and has all the bullets and
the Falcon suit
above. Basically, yeah. So, except for no Falco punch, there's none of that. So, and then she started going in the call sign Farah, with a PH instead of how she spelled her normal name, which is Fareeha. So, but yeah, and then she worked to protect the safeguard AI installation. And while she mourned Overwatch's passion, she still dreamed of a good fight and making a difference on a global scale. So there you have it. Pretty basic for her. Nothing too tragic. So
Nice. Yeah, she seemed to have a fairly normal childhood, if as normal as you can have with this Overwatch sniper as a mother.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we start going through this, a lot of these origin stories are very depressing. Like, what?
Yeah.
So she's one of the few that had kind of like, hey, I had an okay childhood and no one really died that I knew of, and I worked hard and I was able to achieve what I wanted to do. Cool. So not as rosy for other people in the Overwatch realm, such as
Yes.
Reaper and Soldier 76.
Okay, Justin will take Reaper. Death walks among you. He's an awful person. He's an awful, awful, awful person.
Okay,
His
real
name
quick.
is
real
What?
quick. We're gonna have a dad joke moment because this is Dad
Oh,
76 and stuff. What is
Dad
Reaper's
76.
favorite dessert?
Oh, this is my wheelhouse. What is it?
Pie.
I like it. Okay, I'm gonna share one with you just because you did that. Just because you did that. This is my impersonation.
See what you started.
This is my impersonation of Hanzo playing Oregon Trail. Only a Shimada controls the wagons.
Oh my god!
I need to make an 8-bit gif of that and just Hanzo on top of a covered wagon.
Oh
Just
my
back
god! I'm so
I'm
sorry.
using that,
people.
by the way. Taken.
What?
So we have Gabriel Reyes, age unknown, American mercenary, United States military before being in Overwatch, and Blackwatch, and obviously Talon. He is pretty screwed up at present. But anyhow, right now, as we see him, Reaper's cells actually simultaneously decay and regenerate at a hyper-accelerated rate. Even after the complete destruction of his body, Reaper has been observed to retain some kind of form like a black mist, apparently able to regain physical form at a later point. We'll find out this is kind of thanks to everyone's favorite Mercy.
Oh, Mercy.
Yeah, mercy me. So, the man who would later be known as Reaper was actually known as Gabriel Reyes. He was born in Los Angeles prior to the Omnic Crisis. He joined the United States military, and he achieved a senior officer position and was a veteran. He was really highly respected. At some point, he met Jack Morrison, and the two became friends. Subsequently, in the midst of the Omnic Crisis, they joined Overwatch together, a small elite task force created by the United Nations to deal with the Omnic threat. Reyes was never given leadership of the group. So that comes out to be kind of a sore spot for him. I think he really wanted command where Jack got it, and Jack was better looking, and I don't think that sat well with Reaper. I don't think Reaper liked that. So after Overwatch defeated the Omnics, Morrison, who played a key role in shaping the group, was given the position of Strike Commander. Acting as the first official commanding officer of Overwatch, Reyes was passed over in the process, which created a rift between the two men. At some point, Reyes was part of Overwatch's Blackwatch unit. We don't know if he was a founding member, if he was... I kind of envision it as being like, okay, you won't give me Overwatch? Well, fine. Let me do this other thing. And then the tension between Reyes and Morrison kind of worsened and worsened. Overwatch kind of met its end, like we talked about, through the accusations on their reputation, and Reyes himself. Officially, Reyes and Morrison were killed in the blast that destroyed Overwatch's Swiss headquarters. And we know, we'll find out later, we talk about Mercy, that after this explosion, Mercy actually saves Reyes, where he is now able to be Reaper and make everyone's life awful. And what else do I have on? Yeah, so it's kind of speculated that Reaper was a byproduct of a failed genetic alteration, which forced his cells to simultaneously decay and regenerate at a hyper-accelerated rate. Those who attempt to track his movements kind of see a pattern of his appearances. That kind of, explains why when he teleports, you can see where he's going to land and then, get ready. But yeah, that's Reaper. He's everyone's favorite. And if there's something bad happening right now, he is probably the cause of it. His origin skin is actually a Blackwatch skin. So if you haven't seen that one, check it out, because you can actually see what Blackwatch Gabriel Reyes looked like. Which it pains me to say it, but he kind of looks like a Banff.
That's the one with the skull cap, right?
Yes, yeah. He looks like he's a character in The Division. Makes me like him less. So
you're just salty because you've been wrecked by one too many Reapers, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just a bit. Just a bit.
Just a tinge.
So, Blue, you want to take Soldier 76, the other side of this coin?
Yeah. And Soldier 76, like we've kind of alluded to, he has a history as well, and it's very tied in with Reapers, and actually is a pretty extensive one for what I'm seeing. So he is Jack Morrison, and the the leader of Overwatch. Morrison, I think I'm just trying to gauge here. He kind of got his start in the military at the young age of 18 during the Omnic crisis. And he really didn't intend to go far. It sounds like it just kind of, was doing a stint, because it was what was the right thing to do, kind of. And then he was actually planning on just going back home and, going on with his life. But because of his worth ethic and just like the high courage that he had during his service, that kind of caught the eye of the military brass. And really, it wasn't long before he kind of started getting coveted positions within the government's soldier enhancement program. Basically, they ended up giving him, he's basically Captain America. He was kind of given superhuman speed, strength, and agility, along with a few other soldiers, and they kind of used those abilities to really become Overwatch and to kind of neutralize the Omnic threat. This is, I'm thinking this is around the time that he was actually introduced to Reyes, who was a senior officer, and they became friends very quickly with each other, despite very, very different backgrounds, and they actually decided to join Overwatch together. So it was a decision that was actually made in a friendly moment. But whereas Overwatch, the leadership of Overwatch was given to Reyes, Morrison is actually viewed as having a greater impact on the group in the long term. There is the negative impact that he had, but again, kind of like what we were talking about during the timeline thing, Reyes's Overwatch and the Overwatch process was really to be poster childs for the United Nations, to be like, yeah, see, we're doing something. Whereas Blackwatch was really the wet work. They were the ones that were actually going out into the field and probably doing what needed to be done. And it doesn't really seem like at first they had a huge, division between of them. But it started really coming down to the fact that in the post-Omnic crisis world, Reyes was continuously passed over. He just was Blackwatch wasn't really needed anymore. Overwatch was, the UN peacekeeping. You don't need a Black Ops unit when there is no war, basically. And this really created the rift that Justin was talking about. And Reyes was not very happy about this, and Morrison just kept gaining more and more popularity. He became the face of Overwatch, the symbol of hope and promise. Everyone knew Morrison's face and figure in, the statues of Morrison. And he always kind of saw a bright future for humanity. And so under his leadership, Overwatch served as the peacekeeping force and an engine for innovation. You have the advancements in scientific fields, such as space exploration and medical research. And the thing about Morrison was that even as Overwatch grew, he really stayed dedicated to the people around him. He was very involved in training new agents and instilling in them the noble goals and ideals of Overwatch. And he was very, very good at staying humble, even in the face of all the fame. Trying to see what really happened, but so we kind of talked about this a little bit, but a few decades after the Omnic Crisis, Overwatch was basically forced. They started getting allegations of very serious misconduct, and the media basically turned on him. Morrison was doing his best to hold it together, but then Reyes started leading his own rebellion within the forces. So he's fighting a war with two fronts. And that was when the Swiss headquarters situation came up, and it actually was Morrison and Reyes that actually physically came to blows with one another. And so that was the moment where Morrison and Reyes were presumed to be, or they were officially announced to be dead after that explosion. And that was the birth of who we know as Soldier 76. Now, Morrison is supposedly buried at the Arlington National Cemetery. And it's interesting, Reinhardt, who is another figure that we'll get to, actually was one of the key speakers during his funeral. Which is an interesting little connection there. But, even today, Morrison's statues are still, very, very much in demand and very reverently looked at. But, it was about 5 years after the Overwatch was disbanded with I believe it's the Petraeus Act. Was that the signature that was... that they said that Overwatch was illegal?
Yeah,
yes.
Petrus.
Okay.
Petrus.
There was growing reports of a vigilante who wore a coat with a big 76. And he was only known as Soldier 76. And he actually was known for stealing Overwatch tech. He stole a pulse rifle, and then he kept escaping the personnel, and basically because he knows what they're going to be doing. And he actually ends up being the target of an international manhunt. And all these raids throughout his early years of being a vigilante was actually just to grow his arsenal, which kind of makes sense. And then he went on to wage a personal war to expose the truth behind Overwatch's collapse. So he's actually kind of on a mission of vengeance here against, I'm assuming at this point, Talon and, mostly Reyes. So, and I think that's kind of where we get to his short, which was that in Dorado? Was that his?
Yep.
Where he was
Soldiers was
the little girl, which was that was actually a really good one too. So
yeah, they've all been pretty awesome. But yeah, it's kind of a thing. She says, "Are you one of them? One of those heroes?" And he says, "I used to be." So I kind of get the feeling from him that the gloves are off. He's like, "Yes, I used to be Captain America. I'm not Captain America anymore."
Yeah.
He got
he got killed. He's not. He is not Captain America anymore. He is. I mean, I think. Yeah, I think that when that whole thing happened, that's exactly what happened. It was he realized, oh, this isn't going to work. He's sometimes to deal with things, you have to become Batman.
Just like a real Batman, not like a Batfleck. I'm not
even going to touch that. I'm not even going to start that conversation.
So moving on, Mel, do you want to grab Tracer?
Yeah, I can totes grab Tracer. So, all right, guys, prepare for feels. This is where you start getting heavy on.
This story is tough. Like, this is actually really kind of a
Okay, so Tracer. Tracer is actually it's her call sign. She actually Elena Oxton, but she was one of the youngest people to ever be included into Overwatch's experimental flight program. She was known to be a very fearless pilot, and she was handpicked to test a prototype of a teleporting fighter called the God, I cannot speak right now. Slipstream. And fun fact, she actually has like the Slipstream outfit as one of her skins. So, yeah. Anyways, but during its first flight, the aircraft teleportation matrix malfunctioned and she disappeared. So everyone thought that she was dead. We don't know what happened to her. Bye-bye, Tracer. But months later, she actually reappeared, but the whole ordeal had changed her. It actually made that her molecules had been desynchronized from the flow of time. So she suffered from this chronicle disassociation type of thing, meaning that she was essentially a living ghost and she would disappear for hours to days at a time. For brief moments, she would be present and was unable to maintain physical form. So, yeah, essentially she was a ghost. Like people, she couldn't interact with people. She couldn't really do much of anything. Sometimes she even had strange dreams about the past, including being a kitchen maid at a large house in the country. I don't know where that comes from. But lots of Overwatch doctors and scientists were kind of stunned by her situation and they didn't really know how to do anything or fix anything. They kind of told her, I'm sorry, it's hopeless. We don't know what to do. And in swoops our favorite gorilla buddy, Winston. So he designed a coronal accelerator, which basically made it to where Tracer could be anchored in the present. It also gave her the wonderful ability that all Tracer people that play her love to do. She can control her own time. So she's allowed to speed it up or slow it down at will. So she was able, with newfound skills, to become one of the most effective agents in the Overwatch thing. Not able to vocabulary right now. So at some point she was stationed at Watchpoint Gibraltar, which we all know is the area where Winston is. So, but since the dissolution of Overwatch, she continued to right wrongs and triumph over evil. So, which we've seen many times in a lot of the Overwatch shorts. The first one that you see her in there trying to defend the little kids, and then you see her go against Widowmaker and trying to prevent the assassination, which she essentially failed because it was either her or the guy that leads somebody. So she kind of like decided that, well, I don't want to die, but I guess you can die, bro. It's cool. I don't mind.
So you're in the camp with Justin that it's her fault.
It's not like she pulled the trigger, but and also like the situation for which that she disappeared, she couldn't. I mean, she could have, but there's a good possibility she didn't know that Widowmaker was actually aiming for the robot dude instead of her.
Oh yeah.
Because they're so far away from the actual area where the leader is at. Like they're blocks and blocks away.
It's a weird sideline.
Yeah, and you just see Widowmaker, like she's jumping back and you aiming down her sights, and then Tracer appears right there and she pulls the trigger and you see Tracer kind of give this face, and then she goes intangible basically and goes back. And then you actually see that Widowmaker wasn't aiming for Tracer necessarily. She was aiming for her initial target and killed him. So, I mean, it can be interpreted in many ways. I don't know if Tracer knew that was what was going on, or if she just said, you know what, I'm done. You know what, I'm not actually paid for this stuff, so bye. I'm not.
I just want to be
Overwatch.
Yeah, I want to be clear. That was me being super harsh on Tracer. I don't really believe that she meant for Mondada to get shot in the head. I don't need horrible emails from Tracer fans. I don't really believe that was orchestrated. That all happened very quickly. And even if Tracer had taken one for the team, proverbially, where would Widowmaker's next shot have gone? Right into the robots hit. So, I mean, either way.
So, I mean, either way, it was a crappy situation. So that's Tracer, and everyone loves her lovely lines. So, cheers, love.
Cavalry's here. I just want to see her as a maid now.
That's why is that not one of her why
is that not a skin?
Yeah, they have these weird punk ones which don't really relate at all. There should be a cute little maid skin. Come on.
They'd probably get in trouble for that. But
they got in trouble for her default skin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
good on them.
To be fair, for those of you that don't know, her famous pose is her kind of leaping, but one leg is still touching the ground almost, and the other leg is kind of kicked up against her thigh. And then she kind of turns around, holds her gun up at a 90-degree angle, and her arms kind of at her side. And she turns around, and you can tell she's doing cheers, love, Well, when they released art for it, they kind of just had it from the back. So
yeah, it was over the shoulder.
Yeah, over the shoulder, which it's not it's not risque or anything like that. But people were just all up in arms about it for quote unquote over sexualizing her. But I'm she's in a bodysuit, guys, and she has a harness around her legs like a flight person. Mm-hmm. The flight suits. They have the harnesses for when they get ejected. Anyways, so it's people.
Widowmaker is more offensive than Tracer is.
I think that's because Tracer came off as. Yeah, she's not Widowmaker is definitely that sexy symbol of feminism, and that she's she doesn't need no man, but because I'm a badass sniper type of person. Whereas Tracer's more hey guys, I'm your buddy, let's go have fun, the kind of goody two shoe. Wouldn't really be seen do that type of pose, and I think people were more upset that it was a demonization of her character, not necessarily that it was a picture of her.
So where were we?
We were wrapping up Tracer.
Okay, so let's do Bastion. I can grab Bastion real quick. Let me get...
Yeah, we got a lot of paper to go through.
Yes, I was about 2 shakes from rebooting, so... Yeah, Torbjorn might get short shrift here. So Bastion is... why does it say age 30?
Because wasn't the Omni Crisis 30 years ago? And
I guess that's
Bastion was the last one made.
There you go.
He doesn't have a birth date. He has a commission date. So Bastion is an SST Laboratories Siege Automation E54 Omnic frame. He is capable of being a punk and camping. Yeah, and doing mouth trumpet. Let's see. Once a frontline combatant in the devastating Omnic Crisis, this curious Bastion unit now explores the world, fascinated by nature, but wary of a fearful humanity. And if you've seen his origin skin, which most people, I don't know how, it seems like everyone has Bastion has this. It's the overgrown skin, so he's got a bird's nest on one shoulder, and he's got weeds all over him. Originally created for peacekeeping purposes, Bastion robots possess the unique ability to rapidly reconfigure themselves into assault cannon mode because nothing says peace like a cannon. But during the Omnic crisis, they were turned against their human makers, forming the bulk of the Omnic's rebel army. So the Omnic army was rank and file made up of mostly Bastions. Now, one Bastion unit, severely damaged in the final battles of war, was left forgotten for over a decade. So after the Omnic crisis, all the Bastion units were decommissioned, but one lonely unit was left and missed in the decommissioning. And he is the Bastion we actually know and love in game right now. He has kind of a curiosity about nature, and at most times he seems not even harmful. He seems just like gentle. Mm-hmm. But he kind of avoids heavily populated areas, obviously, because he's an Omnic Bastion unit. But other than that, we don't know much about him. He's kind of an enigma. And he's like the everyman for the Omnic. He's not an individual at all.
And he has a bird.
So I think we can go from there, from Bastion. We've already covered Hanzo.
We kind of already covered Junkrat in Roadhog too. There's really not much more we need to add on to that.
I don't think so, other than that Junkrat's awesome. Do we want to, real quick, we can touch on May and Torbjorn and kind of move it along?
Yeah, we can do that.
May's got a pretty interesting story. So May was actually a climatologist.
Yes.
And she was actually, and was it Antarctica? She was actually studying the changing weather patterns. She was struck with an awful polar storm, and her fellow scientists were all trapped, at which point she froze each one of them and made them watch her eat all the food, and then she ice spiked each one of them before going. No, that's not in the lore. That's not there. But she's awful. She's awful. Yeah, she no, I think she killed last one of those. Okay. There's everybody died. And she walked through there with sorry. But no. So so she then took her cryogenic tech with her after she was freed, and that's where she gets her, her special abilities and weapons now. And it's all centered around freezing you. She's devoted herself to try to kind of understanding what caused the polar storm that trapped her.
Yeah. Also, she is one of those ones that was alive during the age of the crisis, but then she's frozen and then reawoken, and so that's why she's not as old looking as she probably should.
So I think that pretty well gets May out of the way. Do you want to do Torbjorn?
I want to do Widowmaker.
Okay, I'll do Torb because he's my favorite. He's my favorite.
All right.
Okay, we good, Blue?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Build them up, break them down. Torbjorn Lindholm is one of the greatest weaponsmiths and engineers in the world, and he has a low opinion of Omnics, believing them to be incapable of empathy, instead acting purely on logic. If you ever play with Torbjorn on the Kings Row map, he will make a comment, something to the effect of Omnic rights. He'll spit and he'll say that the Brits had it correct. But before the Omnic crisis, Torbjorn gained a lot of notoriety designing weapon systems used by countries around the world. And he actually is part of the Ironclad Guild, which is a foundry that created Omnic Titans. If you have read his digital comic, the giant Omnic that he goes in to disable is actually one of his. He makes multiple kind of mentions of this has been changed, or who did this. It's almost like when Han Solo comes back to the Millennium Falcon and everything's been screwed with. But let's see. In the years that followed the fall of post-Omnic Crisis, Torbjorn remained a critical resource for all of Overwatch's technological needs, and we learned shortly thereafter that he is actually instrumental in making Anna's biotic rifle. Yes, the biotic rifle. And that's pretty much it. There's rumor that Torbjorn and Reinhardt actually belong to the same guild, just because there's similar markings on Reinhardt's default skin as there are on Torbjorn's kind of armor plates, but that hasn't been confirmed. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If we want to move on to, I believe, Widowmaker.
Didn't Trogdor have something to do with Mercy's rifle? Wasn't there an argument?
Well, it's not Mercy's rifle. He prototyped Anna's rifle, which is the biotic rifle. And basically what he did was he used the concept of Mercy's staff.
Oh, no, that's right. That's right, yeah.
And he weaponized it, much to the dismay of Angela Ziegler, who is Mercy. And she believes that weaponizing biotic technology is a very slippery slope that will lead to nerve gas and like she's
one to talk.
Yeah.
I love Mercy. But
Mercy.
Oh, Mercy. Anyways, okay.
Mercy.
So, Widowmaker. Again, prepare for feels, people, because this one hits you right in the feels. Okay. In her former life, Widowmaker was married to Gerald. I'm not going to say his last name because I do not know French and I do not know how to pronounce that. It was a French dude. And he was an Overwatch agent spearheading operations against Talon. However, they tried many times to get him, but unfortunately they always were unable to. So they started to change the focus onto his wife, Amelia. One of the operatives ended up kidnapping her and subjugate her to intense programming of neural reconditioning. So basically they tortured her and reprogrammed her to suit their needs. They broke her will, they suppressed her personality, and reprogrammed her as a special agent. She was eventually found by Overwatch agents, but apparently none of the worse for wear, and she was just put back into her life with her husband. However, 2 weeks after that she was placed back into her house, she killed her husband in his sleep. So that was basically her mission, and she wasn't just a special agent, she was a sleeper agent. So her mission was complete, and she ended up returning to Talon, and they completed the process of turning her into a living weapon. She was given extensive training in the covert arts, and then her physiology was altered, drastically slowing her heart down, which made her skin cold. So that blue exterior that you see of her skin is because her heart has slowed so much that her blood is not actually pumping at the pace that it normally should. So it's making her skin change color to that very cool feeling. Basically, the reason why they did it is that way so she is able to actually control her snipes much easier. Because, if you've ever shot guns, you want to basically, right when you get ready to pull the trigger, you want to exhale, really do a big exhale, and then pull. So basically, that's kind of what they're doing here. So she was basically turned into Widowmaker. She was no longer Amelia, she was Widowmaker. She became one of the most effective assassins and feeling little satisfaction of a job well done. As far as Overwatch knew, she had been kidnapped, so no one really knew what had been what happened to her. Widowmaker was a present in the anti-Talon operation conducted by Overwatch as a force led by Jax Morrison rescued a number of scientists that Talon had taken hostage. While Overwatch was successful in this regard, Widowmaker was able to take out a number of the agents. The operation led to a sniper duel between her and Anna as they made their way through the urban terrain. Anna was able to temporarily incapacitate her by hitting her in the helmet, but upon seeing Widowmaker's face, she froze, recognizing her as Amelia. It was all the time Widowmaker needed to take her own shot, shooting Anna through the barrel of her own rifle and into her eye. So, so we know her as also the operative in the short that went to go try to kill, well, not try, she stated, the Somali leader, had her little tussle with Tracer, which we already talked about. And she was also in that first short when she was trying to steal the Doomfist with Reaper. So, there you go.
So, I think we already talked about Diva.
Already did Diva. Do you want to touch on Reinhardt at all?
Yes, we can. I'll grab Reinhardt real quick. Reinhardt is fastly becoming one of my favorites because you become a hero when you play Reinhardt. You literally put everything aside and say, I'm just going to push this thing. You guys take a break. Justice will be done. But his name is Reinhardt Wilhelm, and he's kind of this kind of old-fashioned, kind of, I don't know, like almost an Arthurian, knight at times he thinks he is. But he is actually the oldest member of Overwatch at 61 years of age, which everyone acts like that's a big deal. Torbjorn's 57. He's not that much older than Torbjorn, but he is an old fella. He is one of the founding members of Overwatch. Yeah, his unique ethics and larger-than-life persona earned the admiration of his peers and superiors alike. He's never afraid to speak his mind. He's Overwatch's most vocal supporter and, when necessary, its harshest critic, providing a constant reminder that Overwatch was meant to be a force for good. He is very good friends with Torbjorn, and because Torbjorn maintained his armor. At some point, he was stationed at Watch Point Gibraltar, where he got a tan, and I think that's actually from a piece of battle dialogue. Post Overwatch, he was actually retired. He was retired post Omnic Crisis, so he actually had to watch the fall of Overwatch from the sidelines. And then post Overwatch, he kind of did the same thing McCree did, where he just kind of roamed around as a kind of just like a vigilante crime fighter. He just tried to do good wherever he went, and he has the really cool comic where he just happens to be between towns somewhere in Europe, and he goes into town for supplies and finds that this gang called the Dragons have actually taken over the whole town, and he gets his butt kicked, and then he goes back and gets his power suit, and then he goes to fight him. And Blizzard has said a couple times they kind of see him almost like a Don Quixote type character because he's always kind of tilting at windmills. And in this comic, it kind of confirms it, because when he goes to fight the whole gang, he's actually picturing dragons, which is pretty cool. But yeah, there is a bit of footage in the first We Are Overwatch kind of trailer of him protecting some Omnics on King's Row, so we know that he was there. And yeah, just Reinhardt is the epitome of a defender, a hero, someone who defends the weak with his shield. And he's really super fun to play. Especially if you have bad aim. He's just bopping people with a hammer. That's pretty much it. So, Blue, just do you want to grab your, I think the character that's most like you in the game?
Pinata?
No, Winston.
Oh, that one. Aw, you got me all excited for... Yeah, I'll grab
Some
Winston.
pinata lore.
Are you calling me a giant ape?
No, you're not an ape. You're a scientist.
Oh, okay. We'll go with that. So, as we kind of mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Winston is one of the super intelligent, genetically engineered gorillas that was originally up on the, I believe it was the lunar colony. And he is like, imagination is the essence of discovery. And there was a short with him as an infant, which is where we learned that he really likes peanut butter. But he was basically a prodigy of the, I guess you would call them residents. And he was actually taken as I don't know if you would call him a student, but a personal project of Dr. Harold Winston, who was one of the leading scientists there, I guess the leading scientist there. And Dr. Winston taught the unnamed gorilla at that time science and kind of inspired him to do what he does today with tales of human ingenuity. And so he basically spent his days in the lunar colony, assisting with scientist experiment, and just kind of looking out at the Earth. It was always this like distant thing that he, was his source of dreams and his inspiration. However, as anyone who knows anything about super intelligent gorillas, there's a really good book about this. There was an uprising, and the guerrillas led an uprising, killing all the mission scientists, and actually claimed the colony for their own. At which point, Winston took on the name of his human caretaker and actually built a rocket and escaped back to Earth. Which actually kind of leaves me curious about what the gorillas are doing on the moon. But yeah, so he came back and actually found a home with Overwatch. He was actually he kind of became, he kind of designed a lot of stuff. I mean, he's the quintessential, research. He's the Q to all the Overwatch agents. He is, as we talked about with Tracer, he is kind of the key figure to why we even have Tracer in the world right now. He designed the what's called the Chronal Accelerator, which basically provides a solution to the disassociation of temporality that Tracer was faced with. And so they're very closely tied in their history. And then he actually is the one that recalled all the agents, as the introduction to the game shows. And I believe that's all taking place is it Gibraltar? Is that where that?
Yes.
That
Watch
short
Point
video.
Gibraltar.
Which is where Reaper is trying to steal all his agents' information, and Winston kind of goes bright red. He kind of turns into a Super Saiyan monkey for a minute there. But, I mean, really, he kind of does. So, and then he kind of goes back into, he actually kind of seems to take he goes into the field, after that. And he's much more of I think he's more of a defender type character, in my opinion. He's got like the shield, and I don't know, he just annoys me when we play with him. He does. He chases me around. I play a healing, so it's like he just chases me around with his little static electricity gun, and it just annoys me. But yeah, I think that's kind of where it left off. I'm trying to read this just real fast. It's basically the attack from Reaper and Widowmaker trying to retrieve Doomfist Gauntlet kind of goads him back into action with Tracer. And then he actually goes back to the watch point and he goes back to the watch point where he launches the drone, and that is the satellite drone that actually reintegrates the Overwatch communication network so that he can basically continue monitoring the network, where from that point, and continue doing what he had been doing with Overwatch previously. And so that's kind of Winston, I think. As far as trivia, I don't really know much about it says here that he was one of the hardest characters to animate due to the variety of armor pieces that he wears. I do know that when we were out at E3, Microsoft has a specific or a specially designed computer console that is modeled off of the Winston statue. It was a really, really cool thing.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it was really fun. It's the basically the tower is his backpack. So that was kind of cool. But yeah.
Yeah. I think that gets Winston. So Zarya we already talked about. Anna we've gone over.
Do we want to do Lucio? There's really not much to him. He just kind of was like, hey, I'm a DJ. I want to make people feel good. Hey, I developed this thing. Okay, hi.
Yeah, he actually stole his gun. What would you call his sonic amplifier from the if I'm not mistaken, let me remember, from the same company that Symmetra works for, the Vishkar Corporation. Which I don't know if we want to get into Symmetra. Her storyline is kind of encapsulated within itself, but basically she was brought up as a hard light architect by the Vishkar Corporation, and they're basically in the business of creating utopian cities. And the fact that they don't need any construction materials other than light allows them to do it very quickly and very efficiently. And when we pick her up in our little comic, she is with the delegation from Vishkar in Rio de Janeiro, bidding for the renovation of Rio de Janeiro, and they lose it. And then they kind of deploy her as a stealth operative to kind of try to snake it back away. But other than that, her story arc really doesn't touch in that many other places. Zenyatta, we've pretty much covered. Blue, if you've got anything on Zenyatta.
He's awesome.
It is a really intriguing kind of character archetype.
Yeah, basically he started off with the monks that were like, I don't know, it's an interesting dynamic with that entire order, because they're artificial intelligence, but they are searching for spiritual enlightenment, which is a really, really interesting, just to me, it's just an intriguing juxtaposition of like philosophical questioning. Mm-hmm. But he has a very unique view on that whole thing. He kind of sees the healing of the world as being possible by creating a better society through the formation of relationships, which is very it's just a very intriguing concept, again, because he's an AI. He transcends the difference between physicality within, like, his thing is he fights to protect innocence. He doesn't really care whether it be omnic or human or even animal. but he disagreed with the Shambhali's approach in that he didn't agree with the dogmatic teaching, but rather focused again like on that interpersonal connection and engagement. So he was very much more about free spirituality, whereas the Shambhali were much more dogmatic in their approach. So he chose to leave the monastery and wander the world. Kind of as a wandering monk, really is the figure that they paint with him. That's why he's like in the meditative pose and stuff like that. He actually has history with Genji, and actually Zenyatta became Genji's mentor. So he actually helped Genji reconcile his dual existence as both human and machine. And Zenyatta actually considers Genji to be one of his brightest pupils. Like he views him as one of his highest successes. So that there's a very interesting, hurt in chat. So like if you kill a Genji as Zenyatta, there is a line that he says that the master still has a few tricks up his sleeve. Yeah. So it's just he's just like I don't know. I like playing healer support classes, and so that's kind of who I gravitate to.
That's the most unique support healer class I've ever seen. He's pretty unique. The way he can throw out his Discord and Harmony.
Well, yeah, he's got a very interesting dynamic with his ability to harm but heal at the same time. Yeah, because his ability has the Discord for enemies, but the Harmony orb for allies. And he actually, if you look at his victory poses, he actually seems to have a pretty quirky sense of humor. There's it's not a victory pose; it's one of the emotes.
The taunt.
Yeah, the taunt where he does like the clap.
Crane kick.
Yeah. No, he does the crane kick, but he also has like one where he summons all 6 of his arms and he claps and then fist bumps them. And then I don't know. It's just he's got like a really kind of I don't know, innocent humor to him. So
yes, so it's widely held that Mercy saved Genji's body, but Zenyatta saved his soul.
Yeah. And another little trivia fact is he is apparently I'm trying to make sure that I understand who this is before I say this. Yeah, the senior vice president of creative design, Chris Metzen. Zenyatta is one of his favorite heroes. And it is, I mean, obviously it's the play off Zen and Sunyata, which means emptiness. It's a Buddhist comment. Like it's just he's got like a lot of little trivia that ties back into Buddhism and Pali.
But other than that, I mean, I think we pretty well got through all the characters. We will definitely link if you go to playoverwatch.com, you can read all of the digital comics. And we just now found out confirmation there is a 100-page Dark Horse graphic novel in the works. So that will be amazing. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to them fleshing this out a little bit more. And before we roll to shout-outs, I know Mel had kind of a crazy Mercy theory she wanted to share.
Yeah, it's not too crazy. There's a lot of stuff that supports it. There's a huge Reddit thread out there if you want to look it up. But there's a lot of speculation that Mercy's moral compass is not maybe necessarily the best in the sense that she pretty much created Reaper. That she was basically dead, and her backstory has a lot that she did a lot of biotic experimentation, a lot of stuff to learn how to heal people in battle, and why she always maintained that it was important to keep that stuff on the straight and narrow and not use it for ulterior motives. Like, there's a lot of speculation that she did a lot of unethical experiments, and one of those was being Reaper, to see kind of like, did she just do it? Or, like, did she do it because she cared about Reaper or Reyes, or did she have ulterior motives, seeing, like, can it be done? There's also, as you guys know, she brought back Genji, which is another person. Like, did she really want to bring him back to like, because, like, hey, I should do this? Or was it like, can I do this? Can I play God? So there's a lot of weird... a lot of theories that she tries to play, walks that line between, is this ethical or is this just for science? And is she playing too much of a hand of God when she shouldn't be? Like, should she have really interfered with Genji? And on the same note, if she should have really interfered with Reyes, and if she, because she did, she created, there's Reaper walking around now, which, who could be argued, is a very, very powerful negative force to keeping the world peace, especially since now he's a member of Talon. So there's also theories that she's also experimenting on herself, and hence why she was apparently 30 when the crisis started. So she should be, in her 60s now, but obviously she doesn't look like she's in her 60s. So it's interesting to kind of think that maybe she's not as wholesome as she appears. And it's kind of funny that this has been brought up of a lot of the community also, because her alternate skins are like a devil and an imp. So she has, like, hey, her normal line is heroes never die. So when she reses people, but then she says for a price too when she's in those skins. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much more information is released about her, because she is one of the few that she hasn't really been featured in any of the shorts or any of the comics. You just kind of hear a little dialogue between them. Some of the dialogue between her and Reaper is interesting. There's one line where she asks, what happened to you? And Reaper tells her, will you tell me, Doc? And she says, well, this is why I didn't intend for you, Reyes. And she says, you know exactly what you were doing. So it's clear there's a little bit of animosity towards Mercy from Reaper about what she did. And it kind of gives that kind of, like, she knew what she was doing, and now that he's alive and now that everything has occurred, that he knows that she was doing probably something that wasn't very ethical on him, and she refuses maybe to probably admit it. So so there's also some other things that they say that the Overwatch headquarters in Switzerland wasn't necessarily destroyed by accident, but they were saying, like, hey, she was maybe doing some research, and Reyes was heavily affected by what had happened, and he went crazy Bruce Banner style. And then also Mercy brought back to life was messed up, like something that was messed up in the process and had a bad side effect. And so it's interesting. That's kind of all I have for my Mercy spiel. So
I'm highly suspicious of Mercy. Yeah. Anyone that's that wholesome.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, especially the whole entire, like, her cut scenes and stuff like that, the little videos you get when you, like, are player of the game or whatever. She makes it look like she's God, and the whole entire, hey, I have a halo, I have wings, I am your gift for living, like, you should praise me because without you you would be dead, or without me you would be dead. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a lot of really underlying tones. I love Mercy. I think she's great. I like playing her as a lot, but I'm really intrigued by the possibilities of where her story could go and what other skeletons she might have in her closet. So yeah.
I'm really, really excited to see where Mercy goes. I've actually got one, and it didn't come to me until the newest digital comic, the Old Soldiers one that involves Anna, Soldier 76, and Reaper. And it really kind of struck me as kind of lazy storytelling that that Gabriel Reyes, this career soldier who by all accounts was an amazing soldier, after all these years of service would let a promotion completely push him off the deep end and into kind of becoming the villain we know him as today. I've actually got a very different idea about where the rift between him and Morrison came from, and it didn't have anything to do with the promotion. I think that was just the reason they gave, because they couldn't admit what it really was. I think they were both in love with the same woman. That's Anna. Because if you read that comic, there's definitely a very strong triangle between the three of them, hinted at. Everything from kind of the way she interacts with Soldier 76, and then on the other hand, she's fighting Reaper, but then once Reaper's down, she's interacting with him. And I know they're old friends, but it would make a lot more sense to me why this hero kind of went off the deep end. He couldn't have the woman he loved, and it drove him crazy. And there's not much else to back that up, by the way. It would be a really cool plot line.
Mm-hmm. I always kind of interpreted the reason for their fallout was that their ethics just became so different in how they wanted to approach the same type of job. It just caused a bigger and bigger rift. And you know how when you see someone who you used to share a like vision with, and you used to go down the same path, and you start seeing them going down a way that you don't agree with, or maybe your line of thinking that has changed and you don't feel the same way about something as you did before, and now, that causes a lot of tension, and especially among people, especially this, that are, not only in a stressful situation because they're warriors and having to deal with these life and death situations, but they're also regarded as celebrities, as superheroes. Like, people idolize the Overwatch people during their heyday. All these people wanted to be a part of the Overwatch crew because it seemed glamorous to be a part of Overwatch. And now, I can imagine that there was so much pressure on both of them that they just we're done. Snapped. Yeah. So
I just think they just wanted to get with Anna. I think that's all it was. I think it was.
Or
she's all old and she's got an eye patch.
I know only has an eye patch because Widowmaker. See, Widowmaker is actually now in love with Reaper. She found out about his love with Anna, and now she's like, no, and shot Anna in the eye. So
yeah, shot her in the eye. I uglied her up.
You uglied her up. But
okay, so Blue, any crazy Overwatch theories?
No.
No, we don't. I don't think he has the spinfoil hat on right now.
Zenyatta's orbs are full of candy.
Oh, you want to know my thought on Zenyatta's orbs?
Sure.
They're mini ghosts.
Shut up.
Just get out.
Shut
up.
He's playing Pokemon with your soul.
Oh.
They're actually Pokeballs.
They're miniature travelers. That's all they are. They're going to grow up to be big and strong, and then they'll go out into the world.
They're actually either orbs of light or darkness.
Yep.
So
exactly.
depending upon which one you get hit by, you either turn into like a minion of darkness or a guardian of light.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
And we also know that from our good friend Zer that our traveler has a dark mirror. So that would be like the
Exactly.
Discord orb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Have you not seen the animation for the balance?
no, because I don't play Zenyatta.
Oh, okay.
That's too many. I can't juggle that many
That's
balls.
too many. That's too many.
Does that mean Zenyatta is in his kind or a distant relative of our wonderful robot friends in Destiny? Yeah?
Yes.
He is.
I think
he
you
is
can
the,
confirm that.
He is the progenitor of Rusty the robot.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Zenyatta is the formless one.
Yeah.
Okay, this is truly gone off the rails right now.
You wanted a crazy theory.
Okay, that's you did not disappoint, sir. Okay. So
It's not a focused fireside if we do not incorporate Destiny into
you gotta
it.
incorporate this, yes.
Yes.
And we're only missing one thing that I won't even mention. I won't mention it by name.
No, we don't mention it by name. We don't mention it by name. Move to shout outs.
Shout outs, Blue. Go.
For those who are not aware, Guardian Radio is doing an amazing giveaway. They have, I think at the last count, 7 new next generation consoles. Well, I guess current generation consoles for the people who are stuck on previous generation consoles. So this is only for people who are stuck on 360s and PS3s. They have, trying to remember, 4 PlayStation 4s and 3 Xbox Ones that they are in the process of giving away. There's images all over Twitter for what you need to do to get that. The guardiansofdestiny.com has the information as well on what you need. But if you have not entered that and you are on a previous gen console and you want to move to the current gen consoles to continue playing Destiny or Overwatch or any of these games that we're talking about, do it. Get in there as well. We also have a winner for the 80,000 giveaway. We will be announcing that on the next episode after I get in contact with that individual and get all that situated. But yeah, just basically big shout out to the Guardian Radio guys. And then also, there's a lot of Rise of Iron information that got dropped today.
Mm-hmm.
Go check out our Discord Destiny channel. There's a lot of information flying around about that right now. So I know this is the Overwatch chat, but give that a check.
Excited.
Something Overwatch dropped today too.
Oh.
The servers?
Yeah. No, Summer Games.
Oh, yeah.
Summer Games
yeah.
dropped today.
I know they're having issues with
Amazing.
the servers.
Haven't played it yet.
Yeah, it looked really funny. It looked like
we will be playing Lucio Ball on stream.
Yes.
Just so everyone knows. It will happen. It will happen. Oh my goodness. So, is that good for you, Blue?
Yep.
It was
Piggy
good for
has
me.
the conch.
Okay, cool. I resent that moniker. So I just like to give a big shout out to Forrest from last week for being an awesome guest, and Mel from this week for being an awesome guest host.
No problem.
If you guys haven't done it yet, go check out her Patreon. It's patreon.com/WindoftheStars. Is that correct?
Yes, that is the URL to find
All
stuff.
right.
So, like I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of stuff there. So it's, if you'd like looking at photos of just costumes, I have a lot of that type of stuff there. And then also, if you want to learn how to make more stuff and learn how I do things, I do lots of costume breakdowns, tutorials, videos, you name it. So, but I just started, so bear with me because it is going to be very much a learning experience. But I would really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. That'd be great. So,
and real quick on the topic of cosplay, that is actually going to be the next big behind the scenes chat that we're going to do. We are going to be talking to someone about cosplays, and we're collecting questions. So, do we need to go further into that? Am I allowed to say that?
Oh yeah, I don't care.
Okay,
do what you need to do, bro.
Yeah. Mel, and potentially one of I can't remember. Is it Charmy?
It's Charmy Sweets. Yeah.
Okay.
Her and I have been doing cosplay together for quite a while. She was local with me in where we live. She just recently moved to the Bay Area, but she is coming to visit during that week, and so I'm really hoping that we can get her on the show. She's great. She does a lot of cool costumes. We do a lot of same stuff together. She's also does a lot of, if you guys have seen Hididi's videos, the guy that dresses up as Deadpool and does all those videos and does cosplay music videos where they take a normal popular song, rewrite the words. But anyways, she sings those songs for him. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she'll be really cool to have on the chat. She's hilarious. I love her to pieces. So, but yeah, Charmy Sweets. If you guys want to go check her out, she has a YouTube and everything. She goes by Charmy Sweets on everything. So, I'm pretty sure if she is here. If not, she uses Discord as well. So, if anything, we can just loop her in onto Discord.
I think she's actually already in our chat. But we have, yeah, I think.
Hey.
I think she is. I'm not really sure. People use different names. But that is, for those who are in the Discord chat, that is the FFC BTS chat. We are collecting questions that you have, similar to what we did with Morla for the voice acting. We have we're doing cosplay, and then we have another one that I'm putting together for, hopefully we'll get it out before the end of the year. Because these take a little bit of time to organize. And then I actually have an idea for another one that I'm going to try to get some really cool names involved in. So I'm working on that one right now. But so yeah, when you were talking about the cosplay stuff, that just reminded me of that.
Yeah. And guys, don't be afraid. Don't hold back on questions. I've been doing this for an obscene amount of years, it feels like. I guess a third of my life, if you want to say that. So I have a lot of knowledge on what the cosplay was like in the before time. So if you guys want to talk about that or how I make stuff, please just don't be afraid to ask anything. I'm willing to answer pretty much anything as long as it's not inappropriate. So.
But yeah, that just came to me real quick. So.
So yeah.
I'm excited to see what you have planned, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've got a lot of Discord disconnects planned. They'll be synchronized to music.
Are we gonna have a little bit of Justin serenading us on
definitely can. We definitely can.
Well, I mean, I know we have a competition lined up.
I don't think she's finishing by then, Blue.
You never know.
She's too busy doing diva bunny ears and stuff.
Oh, that's going to be like a 2-day project.
I'm sorry. Was I not supposed to? That would have been awful. That would have been awful.
I don't care. People are going to know soon. But no, the Mara it needs to be done like within the next few weeks. So that's probably the next thing that you're going to see.
Come on.
You forget I sew and do this pretty much my job.
I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I'm gonna do.
Just, you know what you can do. Okay, I got a plan. All right, are you ready for this? Are you ready?
Okay, cool.
All right, print out a picture, high res, tape it to your face.
do the Deadpool approach.
Let's do a picture of a better looking guy.
Don't tape it. Don't tape it. Staple it.
Yeah.
Staple it.
And then there's a T-shirt that says, "This is my cosplay."
I'll just spell. It'll say exotic, just on it.
Yeah, you know what? Like, just don't even worry about taping a picture to your face. Just like get some cardboard and spray paint it yellow and make it look kind of like an anagram. It doesn't have to look like an anagram. Just make it kind of look like one, and then just put it on your head. So that way you can say, like, I'm the Halloween variant from 2015. Duh.
Oh, I like it.
Damn.
I like it. See, and I was going to paint my face blue. I didn't know I could get off so easy.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Handsome Jack.
Well, with that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our sites can also be found with our episode archives over on www.focusfirechat.com. Thank you again to Mel for spending your evening with us. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to having you on again. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any feedback or questions concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback on iTunes or through email as well. We try to keep to the scheduled Wednesday night streams of the chat, starting at approximately 10 p.m. Central, but if we have any variations, we always make sure to let everyone know through our Twitter account at FocusFireChat. Also, please be sure to check out our partner podcast within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So, until next time, the Lore Band marches on.
So this just hit me. This is crazy. This is like super crazy. Okay.
Here we go.
So we've got the Traveler in Destiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, like, if the Traveler's on its own, if it's whatever. What if Zenyatta sends out the Traveler, and then the reason it left the Fallen was because he didn't look at it for 3 seconds?
They
right,
ran around the corner. They couldn't follow him.
Oh my god!
And maybe
I'm
3
out.
seconds to him. Maybe 3 seconds to him is like a long time, you know. And then he threw out the Discord. That was the darkness coming from your ass.
Oh my god!
It makes so much sense now. There's a giant Zenyatta, and he's just sending out travelers. He's just sitting in his big aura. Oh my god. It works. Does it not? That's it. I figured it out. Bungie and Blizzard. They went cross-platform.